me right now is Jacque Cork. You are the Executive Director of Dignity Freedom Network. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization?
Absolutely. I love to talk about Dignity Freedom Network, or DFN. We call it DFN for short. We really are on a rescue mission to free exploited girls and women in India and give them a bright future. Our commitment is to every person, and we're there for the long term. We can provide safe shelter, we can provide education, trauma counseling, healthcare, whatever is needed to help that girl break free from this ritualized system where they're forced to give themselves to men as kind of an offering. And we're there for the long term. It's not 6 months, it's not 6 weeks, it's years of investment. And we are committed to walking alongside each girl so she can really become the person God called her to be.
That sounds like a lot of amazing things that you guys are doing. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role and what you do with DFN?
You bet. As I said, I'm executive director and so that means I lead all of our operations in North America. But really, I'm here to serve the people of India and to resource our on-the-ground teams. They're the real heroes in this work. And one of the things that I think is really cool about DFN is that we are completely led and completely staffed by Indians. So we here do not direct the programs. We resource them and we facilitate them. It's really, that's really a model I deeply believe in, that Indians are working on behalf of other Indians to make the nation of India even greater than it already is.
Okay, so are you kind of like taking people that you help with your programs and then kind of getting them involved so that they are the ones reaching out and stuff like that? Is that how that works?
Absolutely, that does happen. But we're really committed to our teams are committed to living and working inside the communities where we live. So it really is a long-term, relational, holistic investment. Sure, there are short-term interventions we do, but the philosophy is that we are with them for life if that's what they need.
That is incredible. I love that. So today is Day for Freedom. Can you say a little bit more on why it's so important to have a day like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one reason is awareness. I mean, the horrors of human trafficking we know take place every day and in every part of the world. But as I've been working with DFN, I've discovered that people really don't understand what that looks like inside India. And India is a huge population. They're just overtaking China as the most populous nation in the world. And so the needs are so great. So just that awareness of what is happening specifically in the country. And then, of course, the more people know about what's happening, the more girls we can rescue, the more girls we can keep safe. And ultimately, we want to prevent it from happening to anyone in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions of human trafficking?
Yeah, in India, um, it's happening in plain sight, but sometimes it's recognized as trafficking. You know, it's very obvious, but other times it's hidden, and people don't recognize it, or they, in terrible situations, even turn a blind eye. And you know, we I think have trouble understanding that where we live. But if you imagine yourself as an illiterate person living in a remote village, very poor, never had any access to education or any opportunity, um, you're very vulnerable. You believe if somebody from the city comes and says, I can find your girl a wonderful husband. I'm going to take her and I'm going to give her a good education. Or they can even promise favor with a God that doing this, giving this daughter away, will bring honor on the family and good fortune and blessing. And sometimes the parents, they just don't know. Um, and again, because we don't have that worldview and we have different experiences, they are very vulnerable. They're just, people just take advantage of the vulnerable. And so I think that is the biggest thing that I see about misconceptions about India in the first place. People's first reaction is, how can a parent do that? But if you don't understand and you don't have access to resources that can help you understand, it makes you triply vulnerable.
Mm. Yeah, like you can't prevent something from happening if you don't know, right? Like,
Right, right.
yeah. Okay, so you mentioned briefly a little bit before about some of the programming or like the programs that you offer at DFN and how you help women and children. Can you say a little bit more about that?
You bet. So we really work in four key areas. We work in education, we work in healthcare, we work in anti-trafficking, and we work in women's empowerment. And all of those things work together. So sometimes the need is for a safe place to live. Sometimes the need is to walk alongside a family to resource that family in their home so that the children and particularly girls can remain protected. But those are our four key areas where we work, but they all work together. We really strive for what we call whole care for the whole community. And so what that looks like is going to look a little bit different depending on the situation. So, but it could mean that education piece. It could mean access to learning English, which allows someone to go to higher education. It's still the language of education and business in India. Sometimes it looks like simple healthcare interventions. Sometimes it looks like trauma counseling. It all depends on what the needs are of the person at the time. But the most important thing I think is everything we do works together to give someone a sense of belonging, because many of these girls have never belonged anywhere. And so we're able to give them that place, that community, and we can extend the love of Jesus in very tangible ways that change the trajectory of their lives. And not just their lives, but the lives of their family and the life of their community. It's not just a girl we're serving. We are really serving her entire community. So it all works together holistically.
Yeah, you actually touched on something just there that I haven't talked about yet. How do you bring in the love of Christ into your organization?
Well, it is infused in everything we do. Every action we take, every person we touch, we do it because we know they're made in the image of God. We know they're created by a God who loves them. They may not know that, but that's what we want them to know. And then that love and that belonging and that experience, it becomes transformational and it becomes infectious, and they want to know, why are you doing this? And then we have an opportunity to talk about the reason behind all of the things that we do is the compassion and the love of Jesus and being his hands and feet for the poor, the marginalized, and the vulnerable.
Exactly. That is incredible work you are doing. I do want to ask though, I know you're kind of the executive director, and I'm not sure how hands on you see certain situations. But what has been the most impactful moment that you haven't experienced with DFN?
I don't think I could boil it down to one, but every time I have the privilege of going to India 2 to 3 times a year. And that since COVID, I've been able to go a couple of times already. And um, to me, I think near the top of the list would be to sit in the common room of the brand new shelter that these girls live in and hear 100 girls sing about the love of Jesus. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. They're beautiful, they're talented, they are so full of life, of hope, and of joy. That has to rank at the top of the list. But I think nearly at the top of the list, maybe they're the same, is being able to follow. I've been involved with DFN about 7 years, and to follow individual girls, see them from when they were in grade school and now know them as pharmacists, as teachers, as software engineers. So seeing really that this girl from this very, very difficult and challenging place, a village where there's nothing, become what she wants to be and believe that she can change the world. That's powerful.
It certainly is so powerful. And so kind of touching on that as well, just providing these women, these girls with the opportunity of having a brighter future. Um, how do you, or how is it important that dignity is brought back to these girls? Like, how do you do that, and why is it important?
Well, it's obviously important because it's part of our name, right? I mean, it's really the core of what we do, because we believe every person has a dignity because they are created by a God and they've got that God-breathed image already in them. But they don't know that, right? They don't believe that they have any sort of value or worth or any place in society. And so being loved, being cared for, being given the opportunity to have a safe place, to live free from fear is everything. And what makes the ultimate difference, all of the programs that we do aside, is when a girl believes in herself and believes she has choices, believes she is loved and created by a loving God. That belief empowers her. And when you're empowered, you recognize your own dignity. You recognize your own worth, and you believe you can be a force for good and for change and light and meaning in the world. That's dignity to me. And that's what we strive for every day, for every person, every girl, every family, in every village. That's why we're here.
That, yeah, like you said, it is so empowering to give those girls the chance to see that they are loved, that they have the chance for a brighter future. That is so fantastic. Um, for the people who want to learn more about Dignity Freedom Network, how can they do that? Where can they go?
Well, you can go to our website. You can go to dfncanada.info/CHVN, or you can just go to dfncanada.info. That'll take you, and that'll give you all of what we do, give you a chance to get involved and learn more about how you can really change lives and transform lives through the love of Christ in a place that desperately needs the light and love of Jesus.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackie, so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.